It's always, how are you, and never, where the hell have you been, Loka? Hi, how are ya? Have you ever had one of those weekends where it's rainy and cloudy outside, you're physically exhausted and mentally you're burned out, your social battery is running low, and all you want to do all weekend is drink tea, read books, and watch movies? I had one of those weekends recently, so I decided to get a 1-month free trial of Showtime, and while I was browsing, I saw that all 5 of the Twilight movies were on there. So I watched them all in less than 24 hours. I had a great weekend, so I decided to make a video where I rank the crimes of the entire Twilight series. And yes, I am just judging based off of the movies. So I have a list of crimes here, and after cutting some of it down, I have about 50 crimes to rank. Yeah, so I thought I'd start by breaking down the tiers like I did in my last ranking video with Emily in Paris. So I've got 5 tiers here, and at the top we've got iconic, actually, which means I think about this all the time. This altered my brain chemistry. Next we've got I'm giggling, which is like sarcastic or genuinely funny. Because to me, Twilight and Twilight New Moon especially are just unintentionally funny, so that's basically what this tier is for. Next one is what, which means I am confused or why did this need to be here? Next we have oh no, which means I am disappointed or I'm scared. If you are from Australia, I'm so sorry. And lastly, we've got absolutely not, which is pretty self-explanatory. It means absolutely not. It means I will be seeking out financial compensation for this. So I thought that the easiest way to go about this was to just go in chronological order by each of the films. So we're gonna start with the first Twilight movie. And the very first crime that I have listed is the blue color grading in this film. We all remember the intense, cool blue and green tones of this film, right? Because right after Bella leaves Arizona, it just hits you like a punch in the face. This was the director Catherine Hardwicke's style, I guess, because this isn't really in any of the other Twilight films. And to give a little credit to this stylistic choice, it did make the Cullens look a little more undead, but at the same time, it made everyone else look a little undead. It's a vibe, but it's giving me seasonal depression, so it's gonna go under oh no. Speaking of Catherine Hardwicke though, I did want to list her as a quote-unquote crime, but only because I want to put her under iconic. She made the best film out of the entire series, to be honest. She's also the only female director. Also absolute slay for her wanting to cast more people of color despite Stephenie Meyer saying no. Fun fact, she suggested a lot of the casting for people of color in this film, like Laurent, Bella's high school friends. She wanted Alice to be Asian, but then Stephenie Meyer was like, no, she's gotta be white. But Catherine's an icon for that. And another thing that was absolutely iconic was the soundtrack of the entire series. These films have insanely good soundtracks, like they're too good. And the score has no business being this good. Linkin Park, Paramore, Muse, chef's kiss. The next crime is Eric's haircut, because this is for sure a crime to have made the actor have this haircut in this movie. This is the equivalent of the Duffer Brothers having Noah Schnapp have a bowl cut for all of the seasons of Stranger Things. Like, I get it, it's the times. The 2000s weren't a great time for some fashion moments, but they did this man so dirty. So this is an oh no. And then once we're introduced to Eric in this movie, we're also introduced to Anna Kendrick and Christian Serratos. It's so iconic that Bart and Bella and Susie Crabgrass themselves were in this movie, and all of us just forget that. And so does Anna Kendrick. She had this tweet back in 2018 where she was like, I just remembered I was in Twilight, and that is some icon behavior. So those two being in this movie is going to go under iconic, actually. So switching back to Eric, we have to talk about how he kissed Bella on the cheek when they walk into the cafeteria. I think I blocked this out of my memories from the previous times I've watched these films, because honestly, when this happened, I did a double take. Yeah, that would absolutely not fly today, and I kind of hate that we let it fly 15 years ago, so that goes under absolutely not. So once Bella meets Jessica and friends and sits with them at lunch, the Cullens walk in slow motion. It's iconic, but it's also so unserious. They're giving Victorian era Hollister models that look way too old to be in high school, but also they look like they're constantly in pain, so I don't know how they were supposed to blend in. If I went to Forks High School, I would so quickly be like, there's something unnatural about them. You know those TikToks where they take a scene like this and then they take out the music and they speed it up so it's not slow motion anymore, just to show the audience how ordinary the scene is? I feel like this is a perfect scene to do do that with. So this is gonna go under I'm giggling. But of course we can't talk about the scene of the Cullens walking in and then Bella learning who they are without talking about the adoptive incest. Because what? Because to them, they're just vampires. They're not actually an adoptive family. They just kind of coexist together in this small clan because Carlisle changed them all. But to other people, they're a real American family. They go on hiking trips together. They go play America's favorite pastime. But they also hook up with each other. I just love that Jessica and the rest of them were telling Bella about this so nonchalantly, because if I were Bella, I would have been like, oh, okay, time to move back to Arizona. The next crime is Bella walking into class and then Edward smelling her and then covering his mouth as if she smells like trash. This goes under oh nar for the sheer secondhand embarrassment and shame that I would feel. If someone I had just met reacted that way towards me, I would transfer schools. I would simply not be able to look that person in the eye ever again. I would be in shambles. So this next crime is related to Charlie, and I just segue like that because I just want to say that Charlie is the best character, probably because he's the most normal character. But this next crime is when he is eating with Bella in a restaurant, and we all remember when Bella is holding the ketchup bottle, like how she holds the ketchup bottle kind of like this and she's sort of flailing it to get the ketchup out. The iconic meme where she's just sort of doing this in the scene and ketchup doesn't even come out. I would put that under I'm giggling, but that just has to go under iconic actually, because it is iconic actually. This next crime might be controversial. It is Bella's mom, Renee, because to be frank, she's a bad mom in my opinion. Because she's like, yeah, I remarried and now I want to follow him around and not give you a stable home, so go live with your dad. She's like, I'll call you here and there. Also, again, just going off of the movies, once Bella married Edward, she just sort of like fucked off when all the baby stuff was happening. But anyway, the next crime is Bella leaving her house and then slipping and falling, because they were like, we're gonna show you she's clumsy. She's different. She's not like the other girls. She's got 2 left feet. So it's like a bit where she slips and falls, and that honestly deserves to go under I'm giggling. The next crime is our next absolutely not, and that is Edward watching Bella sleep. The romanticization of this was such a crime, and if this were written today, Edward would have become Bella's sleep paralysis demon, and she would have needed years of therapy to undo that.
I like watching you sleep.
Also, I don't think there's another scene in cinema that gives me as much secondhand embarrassment and discomfort than the one where they're slowly trying to kiss and the silence is so loud. It made me want to keel over and die, so that's gonna go under absolutely not. The next crime is another absolutely not, and it is the portrayal of Indigenous culture. And I know that this video is supposed to be very unserious, but I also did not want to do this video without acknowledging this. The Quileute tribe actually does exist, and they are at La Push. Stephanie Meyer took parts of their culture and their stories and tried to portray their tribe in the books and also portray them as werewolves. Here's a hot take: racism and appropriation are bad. Just saying. A lot of members of the tribe have expressed their discontent over this, so I do think this goes under absolutely not. So the next crime is after Bella goes to the bookstore, right? She gets books in order to research what Edward is, and after reading a book, she decides to Google vampires a number of times. I just love the sequence of events because they were trying to show us that she's like different because she doesn't go shopping, so she goes on her own to buy a book to do research, just for her to go home and be like, vampire. I also love how she like read a book and then Googled vampire for an hour and was fully convinced Edward was a vampire, because that makes sense. So this belongs under what? So this next crime is probably one of my favorites. So Bella has convinced herself that Edward is a vampire, and then we get one of the most iconic scenes to ever exist in cinema. We get the scene to end all scenes. She goes into the forest with Edward. Edward's like, say it out loud, and she says vampire.
Say it out loud.
Edward then goes on a whole spiel about how he's a monster and how he wants to kill her. He says, I want to kill you every second that I'm around you. And Bella's like, I don't care. So he's like, this is the skin of a killer, Bella.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella.
And this is iconic because what a line. It also gave us an iconic meme, and I fight the urge every day to buy a shirt with this on it. It's iconic, actually. The next crime truly has me puzzled though, because once Bella's like, I don't care that you want to kill me. I want to be with you. And he's like, okay. They're dating, I guess. And then Edward's like, I want to take you to my house full of vampires. And Bella's like, okay. So when they're at Edward's house, if he were normal, he would have been like, let's go on a walk. But instead, he's like, let's climb a tree. So Bella gets on his back and he says,
You better hold on tight, spider monkey.
and this line has never left me since I watched it for the first time when I was 12 years old, because I have a very vivid memory of thinking, what? So naturally, this belongs under what? More icon behavior next though, because after this, later Edward's like, you're gonna play baseball with my family, and then we get another scene to end all scenes. The iconic baseball scene that any other director can only dream of executing. I just don't understand how any other director had the audacity to put out any other movie after this one came out. Iconic, actually. To conclude the crimes of the first Twilight movie, we have when Bella goes to prom wearing Converse shoes with her dress. Bella comes down the stairs wearing leggings under her dress and Converse shoes and a boot for her broken leg, because not only does she have 2 left feet, but she only has 1 healed foot right now, so she's really different. She doesn't wear heels. She's not like the other girls. So this goes under I'm giggling. We've now officially made it to Twilight New Moon, and we have a substantial amount of crimes left to go. So New Moon, right? Bella turns 18. She's officially technically older than Edward. In the beginning of the movie, it's her birthday, and to kick off the crimes of Twilight New Moon, we have when Jacob comes to her school in order to give her her gift, and then Bella says that he can always drop out of his school and come hang out with the quote-unquote pale faces. No, why was that written, besties? Why? Why'd you have to bring your complexion into this? Absolutely not. Next crime is also an absolutely not, because it's the noises Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson make when they kiss each other at the beginning of this film. We need to talk about this because, listen, this has been a crime to me ever since I watched this film when I was 12 years old. I can't. Absolutely not. The next crime is a little more silly and goofy. So Edward takes Bella to the forest where every important thing in these films happen, and he breaks up with her. The crime is when she's trying to find him in the forest, and then she trips, she falls, and then she just lays there. It's just cinema, because tripping and falling is one thing, and then the yeah, I'm sad, I'm just gonna lay here is another. I'm not clowning on her being depressed, I'm clowning on the act of her tripping, falling, and then just deciding to stay there. Listen, you cannot deny the fact that this was unintentionally hilarious. So after that, Bella's dealing with a breakup and she's depressed, right? And you know, we get this scene where the camera is revolving around Bella as the seasons change. I will say the director did a good job there, because my friend who had read the book told me that in the book, the pages were literally blank for each season. Like it was like September blank, October blank, November blank, and so on. So correct me if that's wrong, but there's so many ways in which that could have been interpreted for the screen, so I think that was an interesting and good choice directing wise. However, hear me out, montages aren't what Bella needed. Therapy was what she needed. So this is an oh nar. So Bella's going through it and Charlie's like, Bella, you need to go hang out with some friends. And Bella's like, I guess. So she goes out with Jessica, they go see a movie, and then after they see the movie, she gets on a motorcycle with an older man. An older man that she does not know. And you know, as a 12-year-old, I was like, oh my god, she's really going through it. But as an adult woman, this terrifies me. Girly pops, besties, don't do that. So this is an oh nar. This next crime is another one of my favorites. This is the iconic meme of Jacob saying, Bella, where the hell have you been, Loca?
Bella! Where the hell have you been, Loca?
The joy that the internet has brought me making a meme out of this is unreal. It truly encapsulates the unintentional hilarity of this film, so it has to go under I'm giggling. It's always, how are you? And never, where the hell have you been, Loca? Honestly, Jacob should have been asking, how the hell has she been? Because girly was going through it. And what a great segue into the next crime, which is Bella's cliff diving. I understand that she wasn't trying to hurt herself. She said that in the movies, and apparently she also said that in the books. So I guess it was just a dumb decision. She was feeling a little Loca. Yet another thing Bella did that made me go, oh nar. Okay, so the next crime, truly in a literal way, made me giggle. So the guy, the white boy that Jessica likes, Mike. So he asked Bella out to a movie and Bella's like, okay, slay, I'm picking the movie though. It needs to be bloody, it needs to be gory, it cannot be a rom-com, no chick flicks. Also, I'm bringing my friend Jacob. And the movie is called Face punch. Like Stephenie Meyer was like, how can I make it more obvious that this is not a chick flick? What a title. I mean, truly made me giggle. The next crime is, okay, so Alice sees in her vision that Bella cliff dives and thinks that she dies, right? And Edward can read minds, so he knows that, and he calls Bella's house to find out if she's dead. And then Jacob answers the phone and says that Charlie is not there because he's planning a funeral, and then hangs up on him. So then Edward decides to go unalive. And the crime I want to bring up here is Edward wanting to go unalive without really confirming that Bella is dead. Like, get direct confirmation that she's dead. Because Jacob said, Charlie is planning a funeral, and Edward was like, okay, no follow-ups. To be fair, Jacob did hang up on him, but he could have like called back. He also could have called later and been like, hey, so just to confirm, it's Bella's funeral, right? No? Oh, okay, slay. So that's going under what? But to conclude the crimes of Twilight New Moon, we have Jamie Campbell Bower being part of the Volturi. That's literally Vecna. Like, that's Vecnosi. God, that also makes me feel so old and unaccomplished for my age because he was literally fucking 20 years old here. That slaps though. He put his whole Vecnosi into this role. Alas, we have made it to Twilight Eclipse, and to be honest, the number of crimes is going to decrease from here as the unintentional hilarity also decreases. There's a correlation here. Gotta come in hot with an absolutely not. Jacob kissing Bella by force and then Bella punching him and breaking her hand. The punch is well deserved. I just included that because it was all messy. If you were Team Jacob, I have questions for you. For this next crime, we're going to shake things up. This is a crime related to a character that I haven't really talked about yet, and that is Rosalie. We get her backstory in Eclipse, one that is awful and tragic, basically being assaulted and left for dead by the love of her life and his friends. And honestly, her being angry the entire series, I get it. Like, I would be a fucking menace if I were her. I would be undead, but the feminist rage would be very much alive. So that's an oh nar, because oh nar. We do have to take it back down for a second though, because there's no way I could do a ranking of the crimes of the Twilight series without bringing up the fact that Jasper was a literal Confederate soldier. That's an absolutely not for me, and I don't feel like I should need to elaborate. Moving back to the unseriousness of it all, if you didn't know, the contacts that Robert Pattinson had to wear throughout the series were his mortal enemy.
My entire performance is based on having extreme discomfort having contact lenses in your eyes, just kind of like that the entire time. Yeah,
They're apparently so painful and uncomfortable, and I don't think it's as noticeable in the other movies as it is in this particular one. He just looks emo and constipated and in pain the entire movie. And I guess it works because he's a vampire around a tempting human. Also, fun fact, because of how emo he looked and acted in the first film, his manager and agent had to come to set on the day that they filmed Edward bringing Bella home to the Collins house in the first film, and they told him that if he kept acting the way that he did in his performances, he would be fired by the end of the day. So that's when he tried to smile a little and let go of the emo-ness. And I feel like the contacts didn't help him, so I have to go oh no on this one. Next crime, we are fast forwarding to when Edward proposes to Bella, cause that is an ugly motherfucking ring. The $3,000 to $5,000 ring that looks like this. I love the idea of Bella seeing the ring and thinking hell no, and then Edward just never finding out that that's what she thinks for all eternity because he can't read her mind. It just belongs in what? The next crime is yet another Bella and Jacob kiss. This time they kiss because Jacob finds out that Bella and Edward are engaged, and he's like, well, I'm gonna go unalive. Again, if you're Team Jacob, I have questions. Absolutely not. Last crime of Twilight Eclipse is Bryce Dallas Howard as Victoria. In my head, this is Gwen Stacy cosplaying as the vampire MJ. This is not really a crime, I just needed to mention that this is Bryce Dallas Howard. There's just a number of actors that I always think, wow, they were in this series and she's definitely one of them, so this just goes under what? We're in the final act, the final countdown of this ranking. The Breaking Dawn films, good lord. These were movies that felt like movies. Anyway, we're starting off with Bella not being able to walk in heels because we're coming full circle over here. She's different. She's different. She wore Converse shoes with her dress to prom. So I'm giggling. Then we have the wedding speeches at Bella and Edward's wedding. More specifically, we have Jessica's speech because, oh my god, she was bold. She really was like, yeah, Bella came in the middle of junior year and then Edward fell in love with her, I guess, even though I'm captain of the volleyball team. The hell, Edward? Kidding, just kidding. It was just so silly and goofy, but for what? And then, gosh, how could we not have Bella getting pregnant? Because how? Like, Edward doesn't have blood. He doesn't, like, he can't. What? Literally what? And then the best part, which is the next crime, is literally all the Cullens googling vampire baby. That is just too good. You're gonna tell me that they're insanely intelligent because they've been around for over 100 years, and then this happens and they're like, yeah, Google would know. It's hilarious. It's so unserious. I'm giggling. After they Google vampire baby, Bella goes into labor, right? So this birthing scene was fucking intense. I think it really terrified me when I watched it 10 years ago. Nothing could have prepared me for Bella getting a C-section and then getting chomped on by her husband and daughter. Like, I think Edward was trying to chomp his way to the baby, and then after the baby's out, Edward and Jacob are literally just like staring in awe at Renesmee as Bella is bleeding out on a table. But hey, it's a movie, right? Anyway, what a terrifying scene, perfect for oh no. And then at the conclusion of Breaking Dawn Part 1, after Bella gives birth, we have possibly the worst crime of the entire series, possibly, Jacob imprinting on Renesmee. He's so wrong for that. So wrong. Good grief, she's a baby. And listen, imprinting as a thing in the series is just, but on a baby? Stephenie Meyer wrote that on her own volition, and then her editor read that and was like, slay. I expect to receive financial compensation for that one. So now we're on to the last movie, and my brain is starting to rot, and it's going to continue to rot because the first crime we're going to talk about is the CGI baby, for fuck's sake. Like, why? Oh my god. It's a baby. They don't need to CGI shit. I don't know why they felt like they needed to take Mackenzie Foy's face and CGI it onto the baby, because it doesn't look like a real baby. It's awful. Oh no. In the same vein, Jacob calling Renesmee Nessie after knowing her for like a day is just, oh no. Yeah, if I were Bella, I would have chucked him around the backyard too. So the next crime is when the Cullens gift Edward and Bella a house. Why were Bella and Edward the only ones to get a private house? Like, they all have just lived together in the Cullen house this whole time. Rosalie and Emmett didn't get a house, Alice and Jasper didn't get a house, and yes, Bella and Edward do have a child, but all they really need is a bed, not a whole other house. That is some main character behavior, but I have questions, so that's going under what? Next is the scene where Jacob goes to Charlie and tells him that he's a werewolf to keep Bella from moving away. This scene was so silly and goofy. You cannot convince me that it isn't. Jacob is like, yeah, I'm stripping naked, but it'll make sense in 30 seconds, Charlie. Just trust me. And Bella and Edward were mad at first, but Charlie has deserved better this entire series, and I think being told that Bella's dead would have been so cruel. So even though Jacob wanted Bella to stay around for Renesmee, which again, jail, he was the only one looking after Charlie. So I would put this under I'm giggling, but it's more iconic that this was for Charlie. Justice for Charlie. He was in a perpetual state of confusion the entire series. Second to last crime, yet again, an incredible actor that I forgot was in this series. Rami Malek is a goddamn vampire in this movie. He's a friend or a cousin, someone they're trying to summon as a witness of Renesmee. Mr. Robot, Freddie Mercury himself, Oscar award-winning actor Rami Malek. Absolute slay. Icon. And the last crime of the series is the plot twist at the end. I know this is controversial, but I wanted carnage. I don't like the falsification of high stakes here. I think you could have had them fight and then killed off a couple of people. Could have had the main three still live. Could have had Edward and Bella still live happily ever after in true romance fiction fashion. Some call this plot twist genius. Some call it a cop-out, and I say, what? So this is going under what? And there we have it, the crimes of the entire Twilight series. My brain has melted. I hope you enjoy this because this took a long time. I don't think it helps that this is what I did with my afternoon when Kristen Stewart was younger than I was in all of these films. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please do give this video a like, comment anything you think I missed. I'll have my socials listed below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already.